as you know, and we know that people don't eat many more often. They don't eat out of hunger. They're eating for other reasons, right? And that's that emotional piece. But first, you need to identify why they're eating. Are you hungry? So we need to get back into our hunger, being in tune with our body. Are we truly hungry? Are we physically hungry for food? They know now that they're eating out of a different reason, that it's a pattern, it's a habit. They're hungry, they're not hungry, they're tired, or they're stressed, or they're angry. So this wave of emotions that they feel typically.
Welcome to Thriving with Diabetes, the podcast where we empower people with type 2 diabetes to live their best lives. I am your host, Gamden, a holistic wellness coach, helping people overcome the struggles they face with diabetes. In today's episode, we will explore strategies and insights to help you live a healthy and balanced life with diabetes. Today, we have a special guest who brings over 30 years of experience in nutrition and weight management. Joining us is Laura Tolosi, an integrative dietitian and non-diet weight loss coach. Laura has helped women release difficult to lose weight and regain their body confidence through her signature Ditch the Diet System and Emotional Metabolism Method. We will dive into her no diet approach to weight loss, managing emotional eating, building stress resilience, and much more. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Laura Tolosi to introduce herself. Laura, welcome to Thriving with Diabetes podcast.
Thank you, Gamden. I am really honored and grateful to be here a guest on your podcast amongst all the other amazing hosts that you have. So thank you very much. And I'm excited to share, what I have learned and experienced through my career with your audience. And the intention is, if they receive, one piece of nugget, one takeaway that they can implement right after their podcast, and then we've done what we've set out to achieve. So I'm excited to be here.
Brilliant. Laura, you have been in nutrition and weight management for over 30 years, helping women transform their lives. Can you share your health journey and what inspired you to become a dietitian and non-diet weight loss coach?
Sure. So I grew up in an Italian American family, and we were always, involved with food. Everything revolved around food, celebrations, parties, everything. And so it was this love of food that I took when I went to college. And initially, I did really want to go into biology, and I always wanted to be in the health field. However, I took a course on nutrition, and basically that was what set me in my path because I really loved it. And then I realized that the power of food can actually, heal us and support us versus hinder us. And I also come from that background that I did struggle with my own weight loss growing up, self-image, etc. So I was always in that struggle mode and using, food in a way that, it was like I felt guilty, etc. if I ate certain things. And so through this, many years of both my professional training and the own process that I've figured out, worked with other women, I've really come to the conclusion that it's really not this diet mentality that continues this cycle of, the shame and the guilt, that we need to break out of that. And once we break out of that, we can actually approach food from a different way, from a way that it's supporting and healing us, and to actually look at our choices from a way that is fueling our body versus, hampering and is something that, is detrimental. So it's just a completely different outlook. But I've been blessed to go through this, on my own, that to see this. And so, yeah, so it really was in college. I took that course, and, my own, history. And then through the birth of my children, actually, I was in a conversation with other moms, and our children were around us, and the other moms were all, they were all really, fat shaming. That's because that was just something that everyone did, right? Everyone did that. And so I said to myself, this isn't right. Like, we have these children in front of us, and it's just perpetuating that cycle, that diet cycle, that shame cycle. And I really wanted to put a stop to that. And so that was really also the other pivotal point, that I basically pivoted in that way of how I approached, the weight loss and the food, with my clients. So that was, excuse me, that was pivotal in what happened.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that you have something, an approach called no diet weight loss approach, which sounds interesting to weight loss, which is different to the traditional dieting.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the no diet weight loss approach involves and why
Yeah.
it is effective for people with diabetes?
Yeah, 100%. So when people come to me, they come for weight loss, but many of them do bring me blood work. So their sugars are off, or their hemoglobins are, starting to elevate. So no matter who I am working with, the initial foundational approach is the same. So we don't go on a diet. We don't do calories, not counting macros. The first thing that we're doing is we're listening to our hunger. So this is foundational in a no diet approach, because you're using the wisdom of your body. You're using the internal cues that your body has, and using that to guide you, versus the outside, versus the counting of the calories, versus of the weighing of the food. So it's very, very different, because you're using your body's own cues. And that's the beauty of it, because your body is always right, right? Your body is always giving us these amazing messages. And if we listen to our body, that's truly going to guide us in the way that is best for us. So in terms of the approach, if anyone wants to, if they come to me expecting, calories and all that, counting calories, that's I say clear off the bat. That's my approach. It's more of an intuitive getting in touch with your hunger cues first. So the foundational of this system that I use is using basically a hunger scale, because people, as you know, we know that people don't eat many more often. They don't eat out of hunger. They're eating for other reasons, right? And that's that emotional piece. But first, you need to identify why they're eating. Are you hungry? So we need to get back into our hunger, being in tune with our body. Are we truly hunger? Are we physically hunger for food? And to adjust that scale. Where are we feeling? We don't want to get too hungry, because then, like if we're ravenous, then all bets are off, and we're going to eat no matter what, and we're going to eat past the point of no return until we're comfortable. So we want to be like, hungry, yes, but not famished, right? So there's a sweet spot. And then we want to eat until we're just satisfied. We don't want to, we don't want to get, Thanksgiving stuffs, right? We don't want to be that full, but we want to be just right. Just enough that we're satisfied, and then our body has the ability to be able to digest and process our food. So that's the first step of the system. The second step, once you go through this process, and you find the patterns, right? I typically will say, like, someone will come home at 3 o'clock or whatever, and they're tired, and they're not hungry, they're tired. But through this process of getting in touch with their hunger cues, they know now that they're eating out of a different reason, that it's a pattern, it's a habit. They're hungry, they're not hungry, they're tired, or they're stressed, or they're angry. So this wave of emotions that they feel typically is what happened is that they're eating for other reasons. So that's the second piece. Like once you realize that you're not eating for hunger, why are you eating? And this applies to people who have diabetes. This applies to people who want to lose weight. Very often, it's the same person. It applies to them because they need to get in touch with their body, right? Your body is super, super smart. And so now I'm eating because I'm tired. And so how can we, now that we've identified we're tired and we're not really hungry, then what's the next step? So do we need to look at our sleep patterns? So then it looks into other areas of our life, what's happening in other areas of our life. Are we not sleeping? Are we going to bed too late? Are we getting up so early that we're feeling rest? So by 3 o'clock hits, we're tired. Or have we not fueled ourselves properly during the day, that we're crashing as well? Or what have we eaten that we're crashing? So it's a very simple process, and you really can uncover many different things through this process. And once you uncover, you take, when you're uncovering, you have to take that individual approach, right? Okay, we've uncovered you're tired. We need to look at your sleep. We've uncovered that you're crashing because you had, let's say, your lunch was really just a sandwich, and you really didn't have a lot of protein in it. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of start looking. That's my process anyway, is how I start to look at how we can make adjustments and listen to our body, and then continue to listen, and focus on what our body is saying, and use our body as the way to move forward and to support what's going on. So that's kind of it in an overview of how is this not this ditching the diet, right? So we're not on a diet, we're really listening to our body and the cues that it's giving us. And that's the beauty of it, because we all have, our body is talking to us all the time. And so it doesn't matter where you are, you don't need an app, you don't need, and some, everyone has their different approach, but like this is my approach, and the people I've worked with, their blood sugars have gone down, right? They have lost the weight through this process. And also when you start listening to your body in this way, you identify these habits, and you retrain these habits, and then this is what leads to the sustainable part, right? Because the other piece is people go on diets, they don't change their lifestyle, and then they go off a diet, and then the weight comes back on, and it's this vicious cycle. So through this process, you see the patterns that you're doing, and you're able to stop those patterns and retrain and move into take a different path.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. Thank you for sharing that. You have given us a lot of information to digest.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the most when you said people eat for other reasons. It's not just hunger. It could be stress or feeling tired. Very interesting. I think this is key point. When people know that sometimes they might eat for other reasons, not just hunger. That is very important point to mention.
Yep.
You touched a little bit about emotional eating, and you know that emotional eating is a common challenge that many people face, often turning to food for comfort when they feel stressed. What are the most common triggers for emotional eating, and how can we overcome these triggers?
So the common things that I see for emotional eating is stress, number one. But stress is everyone's stress is, the perception is different, right? But I see work stress for sure, life stress, but work stress. I see when people are tired, they're eating. That's like another emotional piece. I also see mindless eating, so they're not paying attention. So like that boredom piece is another thing. They don't even realize what they're doing. And also it's a relaxation form, right? So they're stressed out and now they're using food to relax, right? So it's just another method that people are using versus a stress relaxation technique that would support them. They're using food to to help them with their stress. So that's what I say, pretty much all the time, pretty much standard. Yeah, it's mindless. They're at work and they're stressed out about work, or they're coming home and it's their way to stress reduce. So it's it's like all in this ball of stress. So then you have to start, teasing that out. But that's huge. That's huge, right? Because different things cause stress for different people, right? Stress is like this big word, right? Because everyone's perception and how they respond to stress is very different, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. You have mentioned the most triggers that people face. Uh, Number one, stress, either related to life or work. There is something you mentioned people might don't know about. You said mindless eating.
Hmm.
Did you say that?
I did. I did.
Uh, is it like sometimes we eat while watching, or we eat and we don't know what we are eating at that time? Just
Yeah,
so
correct. It's mindless. You're not thinking about it. You're not having an intention that you're eating the food to nourish you. It's there and it's just there, so you're eating it. You're not hungry, so you're mindless eating it. You're not thinking about it, right? So you have to switch your approach also to food if you are finding that you're a mindless eater, and that's where the whole foundation of looking at your hunger cues. Because if we're sitting in front of the TV and we find ourselves eating, which many people do, that's like, of course, that's a mindless eating practice, right? Because they don't even realize what they're doing, because it's like you're, being mesmerized by the TV, and you have this bag of whatever, and you have no clue that you've just consumed that whole bag. That's what the TV trends is doing to you, right? You're just not paying attention. But another thing that I see is like, people who are they at work, they'll have there's like the the lunchroom, or there's a certain area that they walk by that candies are around, and people at work, they'll pass by these areas and they'll just grab a piece here, grab a piece there, and that's just across, during a regular work day. If they're working, outside of their home, that they don't even realize that's just kind of like a habit. You walk by, you pick it up, boom, you're popping it in your mouth. That's a mindless eating. You're just on the go. You're walking. When people are driving, that's really another form of mindless eating, that they're on the go. They're running from one place to the next. Got to get something quick, boom, run through the fast food or wherever but they're in the car, and that's a mindless eating, especially if you're the driver, right? You're driving and then you're mindless, then you're just kind of like eating. So those are just kind of different forms of mindless eating that you want to identify, and then, okay, once you identify it, all right, so what are the steps that we need to do to change that habit, really?
brilliant. Thank you for sharing this helpful information. And the last point you mentioned is a lack of relaxation. So we need to take a rest and relax, so to avoid any emotional
Yeah.
eating trigger. Actually, I want to talk about emotional metabolism and
Mm-hmm.
maintaining a healthy weight. Can
Mm-hmm.
you share something about that, and
Yeah.
how it can impact our health or metabolism?
Sure. So just like we have our physical metabolism, right? We eat foods, we digest foods, we process them, we eliminate them. Emotional metabolism is the same thing, except it's with our emotions. So emotions come up, whatever they are, and you process them, and then you want to release them. It's no different than food. But what happens is we experience emotions, and to no fault of ours, we really haven't been taught. It's not something that we're actively taught of how to look at this emotion, feel it, and release it, right? So then what happens is if we're not processing that emotion, if we're not metabolizing that emotion, it gets stuck in our body. And so depending on the emotion, right? So we have emotions that are positive, that bring us joy, that bring us happiness, and those support the physiology of our body in a positive way. But we also have emotions that support our body's physiology in a negative way. So what are these emotions? And I don't like saying, good, bad, but they're typically the emotions of like anger and frustration and stress when we don't know how to deal with it. These are emotions that we feel that if we don't process them, get stuck, but they affect our physiology. So food affects our physiology, so does emotions. And that's why our emotional metabolism is so important. Because then if we're not metabolizing our emotions, releasing, letting go, feeling, identifying, that's all good stuff. And then if we're not processing that, then they get stuck. And then what happens, it changes our physiology. And how does it change our physiology? It's related into our stress response, into our autonomic nervous system. It's all related into that system. And it goes down the path of increasing our stress hormones, cortisol, and affecting our physiology in a negative way. So we don't pay much attention to the emotional piece, but I have found in my work that if we don't pay attention to that emotional piece, whether you have diabetes, whether you want to lose weight, or it's both, then you're going to be stuck. You're going to be resistant because that's a piece no one's looking at. If you're not looking at your emotions, you're still creating the physiology that's not getting you, that's contributing you to blood sugars that are going to be imbalanced, to insulin resistance. It's going to contribute to difficulty to lose weight because that's the physiology that your emotions that you're not metabolizing is pushing you towards. So that's the important piece. And so we want to be able to metabolize these emotions. And that's where the emotional metabolism piece that I find has been so important in my work, especially if I'm working with people who have weight loss resistance, which I do see a lot. We need to hit that piece because it's not just physical. It's not all physical. Now we got to do the second layer. We got to do the next layer, right? So physical, we'll say physical is like this first layer, and then the next layer is the emotional layer. So we have to hit them all, and everyone is different. Some people, it's easy, they can do that, but if they've been stuck, right? If their emotions been stuck, they haven't released, then you have to work on that, and you can. So everything you can, it's more of just like listening to your body. Again, we're going back to our body. We're feeling these emotions. It's just our emotions are also another signal to us. It's another signal. Okay, what is this emotion saying? Okay, and then let's process it and let it go. It's kind of like saying if it's an emotion that we'll feel, let's say it's like a negative emotion, then whatever that triggered that, we know that's not putting us, that's in a place that we want to be. It's just bringing up, okay, that doesn't feel good to me. Let's redirect and make a different choice. So it could be as simple as that. I know I'm putting it down simply, but it's your tuning fork, right? It's your tuning system. Your emotions are your tuning system within your body. And only us, and this is an important piece, no one knows what's going on in our body except us, right? So we can go to anybody, we can listen to you, we can listen to me, but we are the only ones who can listen to our body, and that's why we need to be in charge and in control of our body and the choices that we make. We can listen to other people and use that as guidance, but then it's ultimately our body is saying, okay, yes, that's working for me. No, that's not working for me, or whatever.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. Thank you for sharing that. It looks like everything is connected, or everything is connected to the mind or to mental health. Um, and you mentioned the physical activity, and I want you to share something about physical activity to reduce stress and maintain health.
hmm So physical activity, moving our body is super, super important as well. And so there's also again that balance. What I have seen is some people can over exercise, right? And that's going to push their cortisol levels too high again, or else there is like the sweet spot as well. So the person who is over exercising is contributing in a way that unbeknownst to them is detrimental. However, though, if they're exercising, doing any, and so I look at physical activity as something that when I'm working with clients, again, what makes you feel good, what you enjoy, how do you love to move your body? Again, everyone loves to do things, move their body in a different way. So if someone doesn't like to walk, I'm not going to say, okay, you need to walk every single day. But if they like to get up and dance, great, dance. Because that's going to make them be motivated to do that activity. So they have to enjoy the physical activity that they're doing because that's going to create the habit, that's going to create the sustenance that they want. So, and then like if someone comes to me and they're not sure of something that they really enjoy to move because they haven't really moved and they've lost that, right? When we're kids, we're running around, we're playing, we're jumping, but we get to adults and we kind of lose that. So that's another thing that they need to discover. How do I move my body in a way that feels really, really good to me? And so that's also producing good feelings, positive feelings that are going to support the response and the hormones, the physicality in their body in a good way as well, because they're moving and they're feeling good now too. They're also feeling happy. They're also feeling joy, right? When you want to get to that point. So physical movement not only is good for us physically, but it's good for us emotionally as well, right? Because we're getting all those good feelings, positive feelings. And when you're in that state of the emotions that are feeling really, really good, you want to go back the next day and you want to do it again. You want to do it again. Like, I guess it's similar to like that runner's high, right? They go back because they feel really, really good. So any movement, but it's really, the physical activity is really important. It's, of course, for everybody in diabetes, though, because it's really helping, right? The insulin sensitivity, it's helping with that. So the strength training, things like that. But it doesn't have to, you don't have to, pick up weights. You have to start where is good for you, and then you add on to that, and you build from there. So again, that's a process too, an important piece too, for sure,
Brilliant.
definitely.
Thank you for sharing that very important points that you shared. Exercise or physical activity themselves helps us feel good and happy. Second thing, you mentioned that uh, we do the activity that we enjoy most, so it doesn't have to be a specific type of exercise. And you mentioned sustainability, and we try to do things that we can continue doing for a long term. And you mentioned as well in terms of diabetes, physical activity not only helps with emotional health, but with insulin sensitivity. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that
Yeah.
great information. There is another issue which is about sugar craving or
Mm-hmm.
cravings.
Mm-hmm.
You know that managing cravings for sweets and sugar is important for people with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
What practical tips can you share for managing sugar cravings, and what healthy snacks do you recommend?
Mm-hmm. So it all goes back to the foundation, right? So am I hungry? Am I craving, right? So you start there. So let's say you're craving sugars, whatever. You have to look back. And this is another thing. Like I use food journaling for my clients but not as a way to count calories, but in a way to look at their habits and to see the types of food, right? So you have to start somewhere. So if I've had people come to me with these sick, crazy cravings, when you look at what they're eating, you have to look at that. You do look at that physicality piece too, because chances are, what were you having prior to these sugar cravings? So you have to look at what was your first meal? Are you having any protein? Because if sometimes people are having sugar cravings because their blood sugars are off, right? They're really, really low. Typically it's a low blood sugar and you're having these intense sugar cravings because you need to pick yourself up, or you're having fatigue, right? So you're taking the sugar snack to pick yourself up. So how does our blood sugar not go so crazy up and down, up and down? We need to make sure in terms of what we're eating, whole food, quality food, because if you're eating, I'm just going to do 2 points here. If you're eating processed foods, it's devoid of any nutrients. So processed foods are going to affect tremendously your blood sugars, and it's going to affect your cravings. You're not getting any nutrients. You're not getting any sustenance from them. The second thing, after you look at the whole foods that you are not including, and it's not from a place of judgment. It's just what it is, right? And so now you have to start making these changes to a more, less processed. That's going to affect your craving, but also, am I having enough protein prior? Am I having enough good fats, right? Am I having just simple carbohydrates? And I'm sure your audience is very familiar with simple carbohydrates, but just, the breads and the cookies and the cakes. I mean, those are all things that if you're just having all of those, that's going to just contribute to your cravings. So if you really want to stop them, you are in choice to do that. You need to, look what's happening. What are you filling yourself up with? So good quality proteins. Are you having any chicken, fish, beef, those type of foods? Are you having good quality fats? Avocados, chia seeds, nuts. And those are the foods that are going to support your body in order to reduce the sugar cravings. So I always start with that. What perpetuates the sugar cravings? So if you are having the simple carbohydrates, with your audience is probably not anymore. But if you are, that's going to perpetuate it. But also something that perpetuates it is by just having that, even artificial sweeteners, drinks with artificial sweeteners. So many people go to them in this community because they're saying, don't have the sugar, have the artificial sweeteners. It perpetuates the need for sweetness, and it also contributes to the cravings. So those are strong cravings. So you have to, again, are you consuming? So it's all about looking at what you're eating and then making these gradual adjustments. And so once I have found when people are having their first meal is more quality protein, or having more fats at lunch, or avocados, then those cravings start to subside. So that's always my first approach. And so the snacks that you can have throughout the day, if you're feeling like you need something, the goal is to not be snacking all day long for my approach. But if you're feeling like you're tired and you need something, the nuts are going to be really good. The avocado is going to be great. Hard-boiled egg, things like that are really, really good. I love chia pudding. I use protein balls a lot with my clients. A lot of different recipes that will, you can just look and you'll put some type of nut butter in there, or it could be chia, or you can put protein. I like to use collagen as a base and just make protein balls. And those could be things that you can go to in place of the cookies, or things that you typically were going to. So you're supporting what you're eating prior, and you're also swapping out your usual snacks or your usual sugar craving go-tos with different foods. And so it's an exploration, it's a process. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's certainly a process. And I look at it as a fun way. It's not a way that we're depriving you. We're adding things into your diet. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Versus, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. Very, very different way to look at it.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that information. Very helpful. There are a lot of points you mentioned. You said we should look at our meals and what type of food that we eat. You emphasized the whole food, avoiding processed foods, uh, quality proteins, healthy fats. These are some of the points that you mentioned. Very helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, you mentioned before the heart math system as a tool for building stress resilience and improving emotional health. Can you
Mm-hmm.
give us an overview of your heart math system
Yeah.
and how it can benefit our viewers and listeners in
Yeah.
managing stress and
100.
enhancing the emotional wellness?
100%. So these are heart math tools that I use, and this is they're not I didn't develop them, but they're from the Heart Math Institute. So anyone can go look up Heart Math Institute organization. And so the research and the work behind these tools is phenomenal. And so really what it is building your coherence, that we are, instead of always being in a fight or flight response, we're more in like a rest and digest type of uh, um, set point where we are. So it's about your coherence, heart coherence. And so what these tools do is there's a series of tools you use, and the first one is simply is a heart focused breathing. And so you're breathing in and out of your heart. And basically that's just to get you from a place of fight or flight, just to be in the present moment, and just to bring yourself to bring yourself down. And so they have an app that you can try if you want, just to see what your coherence is. And it's different than breath work, because breath work is okay, like you're a fight or flight, and so now you've had the stress, now you do the breath work. Whereas when you use the heart math tools, you want your set point to be in a higher state of coherence versus your stress. Then you do the tool, and then you go back to your stressed out person. You want to raise your coherence, is really what you want to do, so that when you are exposed to a situation or a work situation or the road rage, that you're already in a place where that your stress response isn't going to affect you in a negative way physiologically, right? That's basically behind using the whole tools, and being in this state of coherence. And so the piece with so when you're stressed, right, you have these emotions that are changing your physiology in a negative way, right? The high cortisol, the blood sugar levels, increased blood sugar, weight resistance, etc. So when you use these tools, you want to be in more of a emotional state, that the normal is to be in coherence with emotions that are affecting you in a positive way, that it's coherent, it's more balanced, that your nervous system, your autonomic system is balanced. So your sympathetic and your parasympathetic system wants to be in a state of balance versus going up and down. So you want to bring that in a state of balance all the time versus up and down like that. So that's this heart math system. It's bringing you into a coherence as the usual. So then when you're in this state of coherence, I'm going to call it, the decisions that you make and the choices that you make are going to be different, because you're coming from a place of more coherence versus being imbalance, right? You're coming from a place of coherence. You're thinking clearer. You're having more energy, because your energy isn't being drained by these negative emotions in this negative state, right? Because your energy is drained when you're in these negative emotional states over time. And so, right, that fatigue. So if you're in this more coherent state as the norm, it's going to affect your energy. It's going to affect your thoughts. It's going to make you be able to make decisions that are more supportive and nurturing to you. So that's why these tools are beautiful, to bring them in, so they can be applied to anybody, not just people who want to change their physiology or their health, but really to anybody, because you're in a state where you're making decisions that are clearer and that are in alignment with you. I
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that
can't
information.
move my hands.
let's talk about developing healthy or health habits. Uh, you know, without making healthy habits, it's going to be difficult to overcome health challenges
Hmm.
or achieve long term health goals. What tips do you have for our viewers and listeners on establishing and maintaining healthy habits in their daily lives?
So first you need to look at your whole your let's just take it day by day, right? So I when I work with a client, we'll look at the bird's eye view, right? What's their big end result? What do they want? And then we kind of just narrow it down to like what's happening on a daily basis. What are you when you're waking up? When's your first meal? When's your last meal? How are you eating during the meal? Are you eating in front of the TV? Like so we look at everything in terms of all the habits and the lifestyle things and the sleep and what foods are you buying. And so the approach really is what are they in most alignment to change. So it can either go either way. You can make changes, small changes that are easier and more in line with them to create a person's confidence, like, yeah, I got this, that was easy, let's do the next one. Or if someone wants to create the biggest impact and change in the one habit that's going to make the biggest impact for them. It may be one of the most difficult for them, but if it's creating the biggest impact, they can do that as well. It's really in what is feeling good to the client first. It's all client directed. But I can see, okay, these are where I see what's your goal, what do you want to start with first. So it comes down to what's feeling best to them. So let's just say that they have the sugar cravings. So the first thing you're going to look at is what are your foods. So I think one of the easiest things to do is to start the transition piece to a more whole foods diet. What are where do you have it? Are you eating enough fruits? Are you eating enough vegetables? I have people eat fruit, even if they have diabetes. Like I don't. That's not my approach. Are we eating 10 bananas? No, but so I don't look at it that way. But some people have a different approach. I'm just sharing how I work. Um, but are we having any fruit? Are we having any vegetables? So again, like what can we add in? Like if you're just having, let's just say you made yourself chicken, great. What kind of vegetable do you like that you can try to add in? And so some people are even scared to cook, right? So you got to even go back to that basic thing. Who's preparing the meals? Who's buying the meals? So these are all, believe it or not, these are all parts of the habits that you need to establish when are you planning your meals, because that's a big roadblock and a big resistance just for some people too, is they think that healthy cooking is going to taste horrible. They don't have the time. So again, we're looking at your day. Where are the pockets of time? Where are we scrolling that we can actually use that time to maybe plan when to shop, or even if they're not going out physically shopping, because some people don't have the time to do that, but they'll order their food, it gets delivered, which is great. So you have to look at what their day is like, but also just starting with your transition to a more less process. So how do you start? Just start by shopping on the outside of the grocery, or even better, one above is going to, like, if there is a farmer's market, going to farmer's market and buying local foods. Like that's even, knowing your farmer, that's even another place that they can start. That's easy. And I feel like it's kind of fun because it's a social thing, right? It's not like you're dreading figuring out what to eat, but you're going to the farmer's market. It's social. You're seeing what's available. You're looking at the food. It's more of an experiential thing, and at least in this area, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in New York. This is the time that we're all starting to do this, which is really cool. So it really depends on the person, the healthy habits to start, but also working within their schedule, right? So let's just say, for instance, um, they're having trouble sleeping at night, and the simple thing is to do, like, let's what is your environment that you're sleeping in? Are you scrolling right before you go to bed? Do you have the Wi-Fi, things like that? And then that's simple. Like, okay, so instead of you're going to bed at 10, okay, whatever. just stop scrolling an hour before you go to bed. That's the first habit. That's easy one. Okay, I'm going to stop that. So hopefully that's going to contribute to more of their restful sleep, right? Because sleep is really important for blood sugar control and weight loss. So sleep is really important. That's why I mentioned sleep, because I'm always looking at sleep too. But just kind of like habit stacking, right? Making it a part of whatever your routine is, So if you're scrolling at night, okay, so scroll what's going to be the meal that you want to try. You know what I mean? Like work it into whatever you're doing. And that's the best way that I have found, just to stack the habits with what they're already doing. Whatever they're already doing, because then it's easy. And like everyone's always, stressed for time. That's another big thing. So if you can work that habit within whatever you're doing. The same thing. Another big thing is, if people are eating at home and they're eating, they have their dinner and then they're cleaning up after dinner. So instead of after dinner you go sit down, relax, and then go back and set up for the next for the next day. You're already in the kitchen. Set yourself up for success the next day by, let's say, if you're preparing yourself that healthier breakfast, like a chia pudding, I do a lot of chia puddings. Set that up the night before as you're cleaning up from your kitchen dinner, right? You're already in the kitchen, you're already cleaning up. So that's a great habit to prepare yourself for the next day. How do we squeeze it in? You're already in the kitchen after dinner. Make that a part of your routine at dinner time as well. This way, after you cleaned up, you're set up for the next day. Boom, you're ready to go. So that's another big habit that I like to share with people. That dinner time habit, but it sets them up for the next day, and they're already in the kitchen cleaning up. So it's not that it's that much more of a big deal adding more time into what they're already doing.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that information. Very interesting. So we should make small changes, then work on or work towards big changes or habits. So the next question is going to be, what is the role of a positive mindset when it comes to making these habits sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, mindset is right there, our foundation, right? So how do we get that positive mindset? It goes back to our emotions, actually. So if we can work on these tools and be in more of a, a state of coherence where our emotions are in that more coherence, balanced emotions that are contributing to the physiology that is supporting us, then that's going to support the decisions that we make, right? So it kind of funnels back into that, emotional piece, identifying the emotions that are not working towards us, working through those, and then and switching them. So there's a lot of different things that I'll do with my clients to support their mindset in order to have them, right, feel good. So whether it's affirmations or switching how they think, like people will be like, I did really, people, if they're not perfect. So what I see in terms of mindset a lot is the perfectionism trap, right? So if I don't do things perfect, then I'm a failure. So, then everything, all is lost. Haven't done a great job. So in terms of that mindset switch, we work away from that perfectionism to more of everything. It's a process. It's so what, now what, move forward. Like just because you, let's say, had that cookie doesn't mean that all the other work you've been doing is down the drains. So that's a mindset shift that we work on. And so once we flip that switch, like, okay, I can let that go, then they feel better about themselves, right? And then moving forward, they can make that decision, and not go back to that feeling like I'm all is lost because I did one thing that wasn't in that plan or whatever. So it goes back to that emotional, feeling that good emotion. So when you're in that state of coherence and feeling really good, your decisions that you make are more nurturing and supportive of you, and that is a forward feedback loop that just keeps you going, keeps you moving forward, and flipping that mindset.
Brilliant. Very interesting. I liked when you mentioned uh, perfection. So forget being perfect and focus on the process and progress. That is
Mm-hmm.
the key point here. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing that.
Yes.
I have another question before we finish this episode.
Hmm.
What inspiring message or advice would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners to motivate or help them on their health journey?
Yeah, anything is possible. And just because you've been given a diagnosis, that's not who you are. It's just what your body is sharing with you right now, and you are the creator of your own, own changes in your body, and you can create and change anything. And diet is important, and your emotions are important. So using your body is, again, your body is not wrong, your body's not broken. You don't have to fix it. Your body is amazing. It's giving you messages, and all you need to do is just listen to those messages, and then use your body as your tuning fork, and fine tune what you're doing in your lifestyle to bring it into more of a coherent, supportive state versus one that's, going down the slippery slope. And you can do it. So it doesn't matter how long you've been where you are. Any change you make, that's supporting your body's physiology, whether it's emotionally, physically, you can absolutely 100% do it. So as long as you want to, you can create that, and you can do it. It's your choice to do it. 100% your choice, but once you decide, you can absolutely do it. 100%.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your great, inspiring message. Anything is possible and you can do it.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to go to my website, lauratolosinutrition.com. When you go there, I actually have a little ebook that is actually for chocolate. So, satisfy your cravings and enjoy chocolate too, because everyone's like, oh, why can't you never eat chocolate? And that's not true. It's a little quality. So I invite you to download that ebook, and there's some great recipes. And yes, I've had my teenagers try it. So yes, they are good. Yeah, lauratolosinutrition.com. Yeah, so that's probably the best way. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Laura Tolosi Nutrition. That's all you need to do, and I come up. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your contact information as well. And thank you for the free gift. Have you got anything else you want to mention before we wrap up this episode?
Um, just when we make our choices from a place of loving and nurturing ourselves, it's a whole different mindset. So when you're in this place of diabetes, I'm sure it could be scary. You may be in a place of fear. However, if you can just not, and I'm not saying it's simple, but I'm saying you can do it if you just switch it and know that your choices are coming from a place of loving and nurturing your body. It's a different way, and you're doing these things to care for your body, and to love your body. And so that's, I guess that's really what I just briefly wanted to share. you know so if you're making your choices from a place of love, is very different from when you're scared. So that's what I wanted to share. So, and you can absolutely test the difference on yourself, for sure, right? The doctor scares you, but if you kind of take a step back, and you're doing things from a place of love and nurturing yourself, it's a whole different ballgame, a whole different ballgame.
Thank you. Now we have come to the end of this episode, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our amazing guest, Laura Tolosi, for generously sharing her expertise, insights, and time with us today. I want also to thank all of you, our dedicated viewers and listeners, for being a part of this episode. If you need additional guidance and support, you can book a call with me at wellnessimpact.org. If you found today's episode insightful and valuable, I invite you to join our community of people committed to thriving with diabetes. To stay up to date with upcoming episodes, empowering discussions, and practical tips, make sure to subscribe and follow us. Once again, thank you, Laura, for being our guest today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this impactful journey. Until next time, take care of your health and keep thriving.